Don't. Don't open that box. What have you done? You shouldn't have opened it. You shouldn't have opened it. Opened it. Opened it.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
You're listening to Spin Post Presents The Mystery Box. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Swinsky.
And I am Bartek.
Bartek, a pleasure to be podcasting with you.
Yes, it was a good episode. I really
End of
enjoyed it.
episode. Bye-bye. We're doing our monthly show, The Mystery Box. I usually say that I'm glad that we're back and I'm enjoying that, but let's be honest, the last few times we've done this, rarely have I come into this with a happy feeling. And do I have that this episode? Maybe we'll find out. But Bartek, what is this monthly show of The Mystery Box? What do we do? What are we here for? What are we podcasting about?
The Mystery Box is where, in real life, this is the backstory, we work our asses off to be able to afford the Op Shop DVDs. The Op Shop DVDs that we bring into the Mystery Box itself. An actual physical box that exists.
Covered in chains, and we walk through the snow to go get it.
Yes, you've heard the intro.
We heard the intro.
The don't look at the box.
Get out of here. Yeah.
We have someone, every month, someone picks something from the box. And whatever DVD we end up picking, we experience.
Experience.
And then we come on and talk about it. And that's this.
Yeah, and we usually don't have any history with these DVDs. We haven't seen them before on the most of the occasion, except for like the first episode where I saw a singular one of Wobots Christmas. But other than that, they're completely randomly chosen. They're random to us. They get delivered to our eyeballs for these monthly shows.
And can I say, I think this is the second month in a row where we forgot that one of these things existed.
Yeah.
Existed.
So before we get into what the film is,
Yes.
Bartek, do we have a guest?
We do. We have a returning guest who's been on the Mystery Box before.
He's waving at me.
He waved. Was probably waving at me too. Well, both of us. He was in our Adventures of Roborex episode. It is Lachlan Redfern.
Hello.
Hello, Lachlan. How are you?
Pretty well.
Well, I'm glad to
Not so
hear
much
it.
during the movie, but...
Come on, Lachlan. You got to come here today, pick a movie at random.
Yes.
Did you have, before we talk about the movie and what was picked at random, did you have any kind of hopes or dreams or expectations of what you were going to get delivered up, even though you don't know what's in the box?
I was hoping for another Roborex. To be honest, I quite... a bit cringy at times, but I quite enjoyed that. Just bad enough to be enjoyable.
Don't be frightened. I'm here to help.
Where'd you come from?
You sent me here. From the future.
I was also hoping that I wouldn't select the movie that I donated to the box.
That's true.
Soul Plane.
Soul Plane is in the box. You did not select Soul Plane, however.
No.
You did select Deception, which, by the way, is a real Hollywood film. It's not one of these straight-to-video films like we did last month.
With David Keith and William Katz.
Yeah, like last month we did one called Distant Cousins, and it's like a thriller that's straight to video. Instead, we had a thriller straight to cinema, baby, with Deception.
A little disappointing how mainstream this was.
Oh, this was very
With
mainstream.
Jackman, Hugh, McGregor, Ewan, and Williams, Michelle.
I thought you were going to do what they did in the final credits, where it was
Didn't need to
Oh,
do that.
right.
Ewan Jackman. No, he flipped their names, but it was like Ewan Jackman and Hugh McGregor. Which just proves to you that they deserve their actual names, because those sound so much better than if he was called Ewan Jackman. Can you imagine in the alternative universe where they had those names? Where instead we lived in a universe where it was like Hugh McGregor? I would hate that universe. That universe would fucking suck. But thankfully we live in the good timeline where we got to watch Deception, starring Hugh Jackman, Ewan McGregor, and Michelle Williams, Oscar caliber actors or nominated caliber actors here, and Hugh Jackman. Because I don't think he's ever come close to being Oscar nominated, has he?
Not sure.
Greatest Showman was something he was in that had an Oscar nomination, but I think that was about it.
He hosted the 2009 Oscars.
That's right. Well, I take it back. You know what? Deception, you're back in the box. We're going to watch it again next month. So, Deception, Lachlan, you picked Deception. Quick question. Did you feel deceived once you watched it?
Not really. No.
It was what
No,
you
I was sort
what
of
you
a-
expected, huh? They should have called it expectation.
I was half expecting Ewan and Hugh Jackman to have sex at least halfway through the movie, but despite setting up this massive sexual tension between the two that never came to pass, I was also half expecting Hugh Jackman to be imaginary, and they hinted at that, but no, it was somewhere different.
They may have lied to us about that.
They may have deceived you.
Before we get into the juicy meat that is Deception, let's talk about how this was found. As Bartek mentioned, we had no recollection of this movie once it was chosen. We were like, what? And then Lachlan, you said, or someone said that Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor and all these people, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
a real movie?
Yeah, Lachlan unwrapped it, and Ryan and I were in different parts of the room. He read out the title Deception.
And I was like, oh, straight to video,
It's like, what?
DVD slasher
and
or
then he
something.
said the actor names as well. Whoa.
And we're like, whoa, Star Wars himself, Ewan McGregor's here? Fuck off. No, this is not a real movie. And then I looked at it, and it's a real movie. Like, and when I say real movie, I mean like a Hollywood studio movie by 20th Century Fox. And
There's a big explosion on the back of a DVD
there
cover.
is explosions that aren't, like, that's in the movie, technically. But I was about to say isn't, because it isn't that kind of movie. But, Deception...
It's deceiving.
My wife found this at an op shop. She mainly picked it for the amusement that there's a sticker on it that is from the retail store Kmart, and it cost $29.99, and someone bought it for $29.99, which means they must have bought it at the time of release.
Yeah.
And I must say, am I forgetting how expensive physical DVDs are/were? Because I swear with DVDs now, of
Yeah.
new releases, especially ones of, say, something like Deception. Deception, even at release, I don't even need to look this up. This wasn't like a big movie that was like a superhero or big blockbuster. Usually those big blockbuster movies, or the big ones that people are really clamoring for, cost nearly $30 when they're newly released on DVD. But like Deception, a thriller movie, even when it freshly came out, the max I could see this costing you is $25.
Maybe
but for
it
some
was-
reason, like nearly $30.
Maybe when you bring it to the counter, they're like, "How did you like the joke on the cover, the sticker? It's a deception. It's actually 29.9 cents."
And then and they go, here's the real thing. They open up the DVD, you look at it, and then they punch you, like on The Simpsons when Dr. Hibbert's like, "Leah, you haven't seen yourself in the mirror. Look at this," and it's just like picture frame with Dr. Hibbert, and he just punches him through the picture frame. Deception. My wife found it at an op shop, and she found it very amusing. And so did we in some parts, but to describe the cover, we were just talking about it before we started recording about how absurd this cover is. So it's all in black and darkness, and Deception's like that typical white font, but with some blood smear underlining it.
yeah.
Some really, really bad blood smear. Like, it looks like a PNG that you'd find on a free site that allows you to have transparent blood smears. And then you have the actors' names with the first name being in red and the last name being in white because, ooh, spooky.
Polish colors.
And for some reason, it's all in black, the background, but in the middle, you have like this giant crack of what looks like a crack in some glass? A giant crack in some glass.
Yeah.
So it's like, ooh, okay, something's broken here.
It's damaged.
The movie itself.
It was a deception.
And on the left-hand side, we have a huge image of Hugh Jackman's face.
Huge.
Just
Hugh
looking
Jackman.
like, smiling and looking at us like, hey, it's me, Hugh Jackman. And on the other side, we have Michelle Williams, a bit smaller. We have a bit of her shoulders and a bit of her chest. And she's kind of looking forlornly off into the distance. And then we spy there's a floating head behind her, who we can barely see the face of, except for there's a distinct mole on his forehead. And then, oh my god, it's Ewan McGregor.
And he's smelling Michelle Williams' cheek.
Well, he's smelling her cheek or he's licking her ear. We don't know. We can't see. It's all in
And
shadow.
that's who she's looking forlornly at.
From my perspective, like you're flipping the DVD around a little bit, and I looked at Ewan McGregor there, and it just looked like it could have been the top of an urn or something. Because like it's like the top of his head, but also his nose is sticking out, so it's like this semicircle with a point.
But here's the thing. We talked about this.
He reminds me of... Sorry to interrupt. He reminds me of that World War II bit of graffiti that was everywhere around the Blitz London of just this man poking his nose over a wall and so going, "What? No bananas?"
I would love that to be Ewan McGregor, honestly. But here's the thing. We talk about this. Two things prominently. Ewan McGregor is clearly photoshopped in there after the fact. You can just tell by the fact that Michelle Williams' eyes don't have any reflections of Ewan McGregor's face right next to her eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, you can just see the outline is very artificial. But then Hugh Jackman, who's in this movie, technically, it makes it look like he's the main character, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's his face, his name's first. But the thing is, Ewan McGregor's the main character. And Hugh Jackman kind of turns up periodically to remind you that he is not just picking
he's
up a paycheck,
basically-
he's in the film.
He's basically not in the second act.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
We hear a voice of him
Yeah.
when he was holidaying it in between an X-Men movie, but, like, that's it. So the cover itself evokes some imagery, and the title, and we read a little bit of the blurb on the back. We heard erotic and sexy, and we see it's rated MA for strong sex scenes and violence.
Not
So-
that strong violence, honestly.
Well, Lachlan, we'll get to that. Maybe the violence was really strong in comparison to the fact that there was minimal violence, and the fact that when it happens, it's so strong.
God damn it, why? Need you to listen, Jonathan.
So, Bartek, having had no recollection of this being in the box,
Mm-hmm.
what were you expecting from Deception?
Well, when we heard on the back of the box that it was, thriller, that was immediately the first thing I thought of. I didn't look too much at the title, but when the film began and we saw it was in an office building, I thought it was going to be a bit more of like a business focusy kind of thing.
Which it was.
There was some aspect of it, but I was kind of downplaying expectations of the sexual aspect.
Well, what about the menu, Bartek? The menu gave you a lot of expectations that numbers would be involved.
Yes, on the very edges. Like, it was one of those menus where it played
Clips.
a couple of clips
Silently,
from the film.
though.
Silently, no.
Which I appreciate.
Yes. But then on the edges, there were like numbers popping in and out as if, like a hacking screen. You're hacking and all these numbers appear. So I was like, oh, there's going to be a lot of data.
And was there?
There was one scene with some data, but
This is an auditor, by the way. Our main character does audits, so there should be
Upload
more.
a file.
File uploading is very tense. I had an expectation that this was going to be an erotic thriller, and I thought Michelle Williams was going to be far more prominent in the movie, maybe as the love interest for both men or as a femme fatale, and I thought it was going to be maybe a love triangle thing about two guys in an office, because we meet both of these characters at the very beginning and they have a friendship, and I thought, ooh, and then a woman's going to come between them and maybe she's going to play some psychological head games, or maybe they're going to do that with her, and on it goes. And that's not what we got. Technically we kind of got a little portion of that, but not really. And I was really expecting there to be more of an office place rivalry, or at least these two to be competing against one another openly in some kind of erotic thrill game, but we kind of didn't get that.
yeah, I made a joke earlier on because the beginning, like, 15 minutes of the film is basically like beating you over the head with, look how different these two guys are, but they're getting along.
You mean exposition? It was telling you, like, this is who I am, and this is my job, and this is my philosophy, and I was born on this date, and I have a belly button that's an innie, and I have one that's an outie, and I
Yes.
play tennis, and I play tennis.
Kevlar. And
Kevlar.
yeah, and I made a joke like, oh, it's gonna be like trading places, like they're gonna beat
Make
each
a
other
bet.
or something, and like that's gonna be like a deception. And it was mostly a joke, but I thought it was gonna be a bit like something between the two of them,
You were
deceiving everyone
Sort
else.
of right.
You were that's the thing. I was sort of right. You were sort of right. There's like these little elements
Yeah.
of seeds that we saw, and then the movie watered one tear on them and then walked away. Like, they had like a little squirt. Tear falls, and that's it. Moving on. And then another, and he just walks on and on and on. But I really thought that this was going to be more of a film in which we had, I don't know why, this sounds so silly, but I thought it was going to be a serious erotic thriller version of that film, This Means War, with Tom Hardy, Chris Pine, and is it Reese Witherspoon? Or
Yes.
Is it Reese Witherspoon?
Yes.
Fuck. And that's like a stupid, sleazy, silly comedy movie about two CIA agents or whatever using drones and whatnot to spy on this girl that they both like. But I thought this was going to be like that typical idea of like this love triangle, but you're using this erotic thriller office place environment to play that out. And we didn't get that. We got instead something else. Lachlan, did you have any expectations walking in of what we were going to get from Deception?
Well, I knew that sort of Hugh Jackman's character was probably preying on Ewan McGregor, and I knew that Ewan McGregor would probably soon regret getting involved in Club Sexy. But
The actor, Ewan McGregor, was involved in Club Sexy,
I
not the
didn't
character.
expect the exact
The actor or
direction this
schoolboy Ewan
movie
McGregor, we'll get to that.
went in. Although that might be because I just wasn't really that invested in order to guess.
Oh, well, don't worry, Lachlan, because you're going to be really, really paying attention when we break down the plot of this, because this film does involve financial investments. Yeah! So,
Economic stability.
that's what men want. So,
And women.
We'll get to you, Charlotte Rampling, the sexiest woman alive.
For me, Charlotte Rampling's always been this icon of sexuality and sophistication, and it just was really just inspired casting.
We all walked in with some middling expectations of an erotic thriller or some kind of office place thriller. And for the first, let's be generous and say 5 minutes, we did get an office place thrill ride in terms of we meet our two main characters in a very stage play-like fashion, in which one's working and they look like a nerd, and then another comes in, and it's like midnight, another comes in and they're a successful looking guy. You can guess which one's which, but spoiler alert, Hugh Jackman's the jock here, and Ewan McGregor's the nerd. And
You
it's
can
just,
tell because he's got slicked back hair.
and he's Hugh Jackman.
And Ewan
No,
McGregor.
I was talking about Ewan McGregor. He had very slicked hair.
Oh, not slick back though, slick forward.
Okay.
And Ewan McGregor watched two janitors enter a toilet, so he wasn't getting any while others were.
Yeah, but they were, those janitors. They never came back. Did they ever come?
There was no toilet paper. They were
might
stuck
have
on
been
toilet.
the most subtle exposition in the movie.
Visual language actually worked in this film. So the first 5 minutes, Bartek and I were riffing on the movie for his very blunt exposition that was very in your face. And Lachlan, you were like, "Hey, come on, it's it's a movie. They have to give across the point very early on, and they're doing it subtly. You have to have characters ask each
No.
other who they are
No, what
and
I
what
was
they're
saying
doing." And
was that the first bit was that the first part of our conversation makes sense. When two people meet up, it's quite common to ask each other what profession you
Yeah.
are, and their exchange about their professions. It also contained a bit of humor, and it gave a bit of characterization, so that worked.
Yeah, it was
What
more
didn't
natural.
work was immediately afterwards, where Ewan McGregor is sharing intimate backstories.
And then a sad piano plays.
Ah, I see. So you were poor, right?
Yes, kind of poor. I was brought up by my mom on her own, and she died when I was 19, so it was kind of like a lifeline.
Well, I think my problem was I disagreed with that statement you made at the time, and I still disagree now of it being good in that first part, because my problem was we know in retrospect now that Hugh Jackman is targeting this guy for a very specific reason. But Ewan McGregor doesn't know that, and the screenplay, we the audience aren't supposed to know that. But from the very beginning, I feel the artifice of why these two are talking to one another, other than Like, just the artifice of the screenplay needs these two to converse with one another, form a friendship, and then allow the double backstab, triple turn deception to take place. So even when they were discussing things in a jovial manner, I did not at all believe that these two would even exchange more than 2 sentences to one another, and yet here they are exchanging whole diatribes, and then it went to the point in which it was like sharing psychological backstory. I'm not saying you can't have characters do this, but I felt like Hugh Jackman
Just not
and
immediately.
Yes, and Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor were too broadly drawn out in their character types to the point in which you go, why would they even converse more than what Ewan McGregor does with other Office Place dudes that you see later in the movie? He only gives them like a quick sentence of exchange. Why does Hugh Jackman get more? And we know in the retrospect, it's because Hugh Jackman has a very specific purpose, but on a first-time viewing in the screenplay, it's very, like, on the nose, forced, we need to get the screenplay to go this direction.
I thought it was because, it's late at night and you'd been working for hours and sometimes you just need a distraction.
Yeah, I could see that too, but for me, I just felt it, and maybe because the acting was so,
but it just went too
overdrawn. Like, I think the problem is both these guys are great actors. We've seen them both be good. Like, Ewan McGregor, Hugh Jackman. I kind of wish Hugh Jackman would do better roles more often, but I think he's a great actor. Felt like they played it too much in the stereotypes of Hugh Jackman's like, I'm a rich lawyer man who's like a jock bro, and I got a doobie in my pocket. You want to blaze one up and just be a bro? And Ewan McGregor was like, I like numbers, and I like to hold my hands awkwardly while I describe things, and I got this awkward haircut, and I've got glasses on.
And both of their accents were slipping at
Oh,
times.
well, no, I would say Hugh Jackman's did not slip until a very certain scene late in the movie, and I was like very confused. But Ewan McGregor off the chain from the fucking beginning. And it makes you go, here's something. Would this movie have been better if it was set in England? What does it make a difference if this was set in New York? What difference does it make? Because both actors have more of an accent that can easily lean into a British accent. Like, Ewan is from the UK, he's from Scotland or Ireland, I can't remember. But and then we know Hugh Jackman's Australian. And Hugh Jackman can do a better American accent, but Ewan has always struggled with that. Even in something that we liked about Tuck Down with Love, we did point out that his accent is a little bit flimsy in that, but then they make a point of that. In this, it's flimsy throughout the whole thing. And I'm not saying Ewan couldn't do an American accent or couldn't hone it down, but I'm saying, what does it benefit this movie to have it in America? Is there anything? Why could we not have this set in the UK? Because at the end, they run off through Europe anyway.
Maybe because America loves sex and violence.
Like Europe doesn't?
So, I guess that's it. This is my report for Mr. Carruthers. Great. Could you point me towards Wyatt Bose's office, please?
Who?
Wyatt Bose. He's one of your...
Hey, quit looking down Daphne's shirt.
This film has a lot of moving pieces, but I think for me, I never moved past the first 5 minutes, honestly. Like, I kept thinking about, like, how it was so dreamlike and weird because of how forced the exposition felt, because of how forced they were in their character types, and that they smoked a doobie. I can't get past that. Hugh Jackman, a high-biz lawyer, his character's supposed to be, grabs out a joint from his pocket, and Ewan McGregor, who's supposed to be a straight-laced, by-the-books kind of guy, is like, yeah, I'll smoke a random joint with a stranger.
With a cool stranger.
He's a cool writer. And it's just like, why is this here? And the answer is because it's, we need the characters to bond.
Yeah, and Hugh Jackman laughs a lot early on.
Early on, any scene he is in, there's like a 90% guarantee Hugh Jackman's gonna chuckle and laugh.
But after the villain twist, it's far more, infrequent.
No, I have to. It's the same thing. I remember what I said. I haven't felt this good since I saw Van Halen in '87.
You guys have it. Yeah, she's looking at you.
He is a cool guy though, because when he beats Jonathan at tennis, he kisses girls.
Who? Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
Well, that was in Hugh Jackman's contract, I imagine. I've got to beat Ewan McGregor at tennis and kiss girls. I'm not Wolverine for nothing, motherfucker. And can I sing in the movie? We had a big bet going on of how long, if at all, will he sing in the movie. Because Hugh Jackman is well known, as we all know, as Australians, as people who aren't Australian. We all know Hugh Jackman wishes that he could be the music man, but instead he's too much of a conventional hunky action star.
Yeah, and Ryan, you have a whole thing about how like every time you see him, he always has to sing. And there was one film you really liked that like isn't popular, and he doesn't sing in that.
Yeah, he didn't sing in The Prestige.
Yeah, and then in this film, it was like, oh, if he ends up
Prisoners, yeah.
if he ends up singing in this film, then that's just another one.
My baby loves me. She always makes me feel fine. She loves me. She lets me know that she's mine. She kisses. And when I ask her if everything's okay, I get my answer. The only thing I can say is say, yeah, your turn.
What do we feel about their performances in this movie, and how do we feel about them as performers? Lachlan?
I think they did okay for the material.
Yeah.
I think they're both good actors.
Mm? Enjoyed them in anything in particular?
I think Ewan McGregor was heroic in trying to bring gravitas to the prequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman, I haven't really seen a lot of him outside of Baz Luhrmann.
Oh, not even the Wolverines?
I only saw the X-Men, the original X-Men movies on TV.
Oh, you have to see Logan.
Well, I have seen Logan, and he was pretty good in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think about acting as a craft a lot. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I don't really notice body language.
Yeah.
The same way neurotypical people do. I don't know, but yeah, they're both good actors, and I think they try to do the material well. But some of the cheesier lines, you could see Hugh Jackman struggle with a bit.
Oh, Hugh struggled
gave
more
his
than
best.
Ewan with the cheesy lines, I think. Hugh struggled a little bit more with the cheese than Ewan. Ewan's used to it. He did the prequels.
You were right about one thing, Master. The negotiations were short.
What you have said is, these two actors, you're not familiar with them doing this type of movie?
No, not really.
Nor am I, and I've seen them in quite a bit, honestly. I've talked very much on the pod before about my feelings about Ewan McGregor and Hugh Jackman in the past, but
What are your feelings?
to highlight them again, Ewan McGregor, I love that guy. I think he's a great actor, but he does projects that I do not like. I only like Trainspotting, Down with Love, and I Love You, Philip Morris as films, and his performances. I do not like the prequels, but I think his performance is truly transcendent and great. But also, I've talked about on a Star Wars episode about how problematic I also find his performance of being so genuinely Shakespeareanly good in such a piece of garbage trash that it kind of highlights bigger issues that are happening in the story and the production, because you have someone who's giving it their all, and then you have Sam Jackson next to him doing not emoting, and you're like, what? I find Ewan McGregor very frustrating because I want to like his movies, but there's nothing in his catalogue outside of those three as movies I like. I don't like Moulin Rouge. I've never liked Moulin Rouge. I'm not a huge Baz Luhrmann fan, or as Americans call him, Boz Luhrmann. I don't know where that came from. It's a BA. I want to like Hugh Jackman, but he doesn't want to do things I like. So every now and then, he will do something like The Prestige, or he'll do something like Prisoner. But he likes money, so he'll do the action superhero Wolverine stuff. Sure, that's cool. But then he likes to do song and dance stuff, and I don't care for his type of song and dance musical stuff. I don't care for The Greatest Showman. I don't care for that kind of stuff. And he likes to be the heartthrob for women, so stuff like Australia, the movie, and stuff like that. And where he takes his top off.
To
and
be fair, a lot of people would want to be Wolverine.
No, but I'm saying I want to see him do more acting stuff. Like Logan was a great example, and that's still Wolverine, but that was like the one time where you go, oh fuck, that's right, he's a great actor, like a proper actor, not just a great action lead. I want to see Ewan McGregor and Hugh Jackman do more projects that show off their acting abilities, while also those projects are actually great, without them being so-so, or they were a shining element in a piece of crap. What about you, Bartek? Your feelings on Ewan McGregor and Hugh are leads, and just to quickly say, I thought their performances were bad in this. Straight up. I thought the performance, just to give my thing, I thought they fucking sucked in this. They tried, but boy oh boy, it didn't work. You?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman, what I've seen him in has been fine. Hasn't been too much. If he's in a good thing, I'll check it out. Ewan McGregor, though, on the other hand, I mostly knew him just as like, oh yeah, he was Obi-Wan in the prequels, and I'd heard other people say, like, mostly women being like, oh, he's very charming and all these other things.
Which you didn't see that from the prequels?
I think maybe I was just focusing on a million things when I was watching the prequels the first time.
You mean the Emperor, go
on. But I have to say that seeing him in things like Down with Love really kind of escalated him in my mind. Like, yeah, this guy actually really knows what he's doing. I want to see more from him.
Because over the years, I've discussed Ewan McGregor with you, and then Down with Love, we said that in the episode, he's kind of shown you what I've talked about with Ewan, where it's like, he's this great guy, he's charming, he's got this look about him, he's got this demeanor. Wish he did more. Wish he did more stuff that makes you want to look at him. But, and you haven't seen Trainspotting, have you?
No.
That's a big one that you've missed out on, a blind spot, and he's amazing in it, but, as he is, and I haven't seen Dr. Sleep. Maybe he's great in that, but I've heard very mixed responses on that movie. But what did you think of their performances in this film? And like I said, Lachlan, are you used to them at all being in these type of movies? This type of movie?
Well, I think I've already explained I'm not really too used to them in general, but I don't think they were terrible, but like you said, it's not like they had great material to work with to really make it great.
Yeah.
I think early on when they were, being buddies, there was a bit of humor in that, but as it went on and the film got tonally a bit weird and plot got a bit weird, it was hard to tell like what they were going for or what they were implying.
I think it is hard because we all agreed that it felt like Hugh Jackman didn't exist.
Yeah, and the film led you to believe that at certain points.
And now that we've seen the film, and the film, spoiler alert, like we're talking about this in depth, this reveals that he is real.
Yeah, both the people in this film that you're led to believe might not exist end up existing.
And there are many films we brought up, Fight Club and American Psycho and so on and so forth, in which things dabble with, is this real, is this not real? And that's kind of the point.
I remember the phrase "fuck club" was being thrown around quite a lot during this point in the movie.
But I gotta ask this: now that we've seen the full film, and not only just our experiences journeying through it, but now that we've finished it and we're talking about it now, what purpose did it serve to make the audience believe that Hugh Jackman was fictional at points? Because
5 minutes of suspense.
I mean,
is that it? Is that all?
I guess it was a running joke kind of thing, was like every time the film subverted the expectation I was having or the theory that we were building up, I'd go, oh, they deceived me.
Yeah,
and I guess
deception.
And I guess if someone is actually that simple-minded, then like, oh, that's the deception. Oh, that's the deception.
Yeah.
And it just stacks up and you realize, wow, this is a film full of deceptions.
Yeah, I think it's just that thing of you have to go like you said, Lachlan, all it's there for is 5 minutes of tension, and that's all it serves. And you have to go, well, as a screenwriting thing and as a film and as a story, it's hollow. Because we were not enjoying the film, I can say, right? None of us actually enjoyed this film.
Only in like the making fun of it way.
But one of the reasons I didn't enjoy it was the fact that the film was openly grabbing at you and going, he's not real, or shit like that. And I was going, but why wouldn't he be real? In my brain, I was going, and I was saying out loud, like, he has to be real. Like, but at the same time, I'd scream, like, he's not real, because I'd say he's not real because the film's saying it in a way, but then I'd have to say he is real because what would be the reason for him not to be real?
Yeah, and why?
Because in all those other films, American Psycho and Fight Club and on and on and on, characters who aren't real or could not be real there's a reason and a logic as to why characters and the audience can have an assumption of this.
Yeah,
even in
straight
the
up.
beat-to-beat moments, not just in the full picture.
And straight up, there's even the aspect of, like, they switch their phones at one point and there's different contacts in Ewan McGregor's phone. So right there, it's like, okay, well, he had to have someone to mix phones with.
So, did I get any calls?
Yes, you did.
Right, and?
Well, what the hell was that?
I knew it. You met up with someone.
Well, I thought it might have been you calling me back.
No, please spare me. I would have done the same.
Lachlan said something very interesting during the movie, and I disagreed with him. But then we got confronted with meeting the writer later in a special feature. You said something very early on when it was this movie revolves around the underbelly of secret sex clubs. And you said something, Lachlan, along the lines of like, oh, you know, this is like the writer's fantasy. You know, this is kind of something he sat down one day and thought about. And he's like imagining that this is him entering this sex world. And I was like...
Sex Adventures of a Nerd.
Sex Adventures of a Nerd. And I said, no, Lachlan. I was too dismissive of that because I was too focused on how poetic and flowery the dialogue was, to the point in which I've said this before. I'm a writer writing a writing
there
script.
was a lot of that.
And I got deceived by me thinking, no, Lachlan, you're wrong. The writer's not just some sleazy perv who had a pervy fantasy about
They
this.
have a vocabulary.
He's a guy that wants to show off how good he can write one of these cheapo thrillers with his great writing. And then we watched the special
Those aren't
feature.
mutually exclusive goals, by
But
the way.
Then we watched the special feature and we met the director who looks exactly like the Ewan McGregor, the writer who looks exactly like the Ewan McGregor character. Glasses, kind of nervy, hair parted, and he said what you said, Lachlan. He was like, I was sitting down writing one day and I had a fantasy about this, and I'm like, fuck me. This is just high-end Hollywood version of those Z-grade films in which someone has a pervy fantasy and they write in the script so they have an excuse for actors to act it out. But this is like a high-end Hollywood movie where they got Ewan McGregor and Hugh Jackman and Michelle Williams to do it.
Like other writers who tend to kind of explore their darkest sides within the very safe confines of their office, I was really fantasizing about what would sort of the ideal version of this feel like. What's the most seductive possibility? And to me, it's people who are exactly like yourself, you know, just young urban professionals who are simply just too busy to have anything resembling a relationship and have these needs and want to see them met.
This film, I just keep thinking about this film, and the thing that I find very difficult about it, it's like we usually go ramping through the plot and beat by beat scenes. And usually sometimes I say to you, it's kind of perfunctory to do that sometimes because it's so hard to remember, even though we've just watched it, how the flow of movies go because of how poorly they were made. And when we say that, we are subtextually saying it's because the film is a cheap piece of shit who didn't know and they didn't know how to make it. And sometimes I contextually say that. This is a high-end Hollywood film, and I still feel that problem, even though it's slickly made. The camera, you know, the lighting's relatively good. Like, it goes for a very distinct visual style. But I wouldn't say it's an ugly visual style. It's just a very distinctive choice. But the way the music's implemented, the way scenes are edited and camera movements and just general pacing, I feel like this movie was a dream I had. And not in a David Lynch sense. This feels like a dream I had 4 weeks ago, and you're asking me to recollect it again. And I'm just like, there was a dream where,
You were a head and legs.
I was in a building, and I was reflecting through some glass, and it really was confusing, and I wanted a friend, and Hugh Jackman was that friend, I think. And then he went to London, and 6 months passed, and it felt like a day, and...
Season looked the same in the city.
And then I went to a sex club, and I met Maggie Q, and she's a very important character, according to one of the therapists in the special features. And that's how this movie feels. So when I say, like, we're going to talk about this movie, I don't think we need to strictly stick to these beat by beat as we usually do, because I think it's just this general, it's a thriller, you know what you're getting. But this...
It's just Sex Adventures.
It's Eyes Wide Shut, done by idiots.
The first act definitely really is kind of Sex Adventures, because I remembered, because when Lachlan picked the film, he actually read out loud the first part of the blurb on the back, and I did remember it saying that this film's a thriller, but at the beginning of the film, other than like this idea of, I switched my phones and I've accidentally been solicited for sex, or accidentally, as we're led to believe, it just felt like that was happening a little too much. Like there was montages of him meeting different women, having
Ewan
sex.
McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor, and it just kept going on and on. And it's like,
What's the point?
is there going to be like a romance angle? Is this what they're leading to? Where's the thriller aspect?
Where's Michelle Williams?
Seeing women he'd had sex with afterwards and just smiling to himself. Yep.
That's me. I didn't know. And again,
just incredibly pleased.
Ewan McGregor is made out to be so much a dweeb in this movie. There's a scene where Hugh Jackman and Ewan McGregor are standing next to each other. I swear it's like only this one scene, but Ewan McGregor looks so short. He looks like a schoolboy next to him, and then that'll come back later, the schoolboy element. But
was it after the tennis game?
no, it was when he was in the office looking for Hugh Jackman.
Oh, right.
Very early on, we get established that no one in this office place knows who Hugh Jackman is.
They don't recognize his name.
A telltale sign to the audience that this character is fake.
How did he get in?
How did he get in? He just wore a suit and looked successful. That's how he got in.
Well, it's just...
That's how stupid this movie is.
I've worked in high-rise offices before. I mean, usually you need a key card to get in. You can ride the elevator up to whatever floor you like, but to get into the actual offices, you need a key card.
Oh, it's because Hugh Jackman's hot. He just smiled and they went, come on. No, even better. He just laughed and they said, come on in.
The film also did...
You're a cute little boy. Come on in. And he was like...
And this is highlighted the scripted angle. The film also had moments where, like, there's a very easy way to clarify what you want to learn, and the characters word what they're saying in such a way that you don't get to that answer. So he's asking the receptionist, like, hey, can you find me Wyatt whatever's office? And she's like, who's that? He's like, oh, well, he's... And then Wyatt walks in. It's like, oh, never mind. I'll just go talk to him.
Yeah.
If he continued the conversation, he would have learned he doesn't exist. Later on, he questions someone about who's Wyatt, and he keeps using the name, and the lady doesn't recognize the name.
It's a very fragile scheme.
We'll get to the scheme, but just to go on Bartek's point, I thought you were going to bring up Ewan McGregor gets a phone call on the phone.
I think that was going to be the third thing I brought up, but yeah.
No, Ewan McGregor gets a phone call on this phone, and you, just to amp up on your point.
Oh, yeah.
There's a woman on the phone saying, hey, are we going to meet? And all he has to say is, hey, sorry, I'm one of White's friends. He left his phone. And that's all he has to say.
And he actually did say it.
But no, he mangles that so much in which it's just forcing it so he has to say yes to this woman on the phone and meet her in real life so that the sexcapades can happen. Thus, Hugh Jackman's plot can happen. It wasn't like it's a script where you look back and you go, oh, she was very pushy and kind of pushed him into these words.
No, but don't you remember?
He was just a dumbass.
No, don't you remember? He literally said, hey, this isn't Wyatt. What are you talking about? And she literally said, oh, I didn't hear that, middle part or something. The exact part that was important.
Yeah, and
then he didn't clarify it.
And then he kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I just was like, it's so forced.
Yeah. And then there was a part where he met up with one of the women and he was going to explain, hey, I'm not Wyatt, but they had to have it be oh, he's
blown away by her beauty.
He's blown away by her beauty. She starts making out with him and now he can't say it.
Yeah, because he's got a boner. And you can't say no when you got a boner. It's the logic. Even though this movie has weirdly very apt consensual sex rules in it.
You're not who I spoke to on the phone?
No. Yes, I am. But,
What's wrong? Are you not attracted to me?
Oh, you're beautiful. It's just you called me and I came here, but I don't...
You don't?
Not too sure what's going on.
I'm not too sure what's going on.
Ewan McGregor, Hugh Jackman become friends. Hugh Jackman fucks off and makes it so that Ewan McGregor joins this secret sex society. And in doing so, Ewan McGregor eventually meets, again, Michelle Williams, because early in the film he met her at a train station and they didn't really talk. He just kind of noticed her beauty because she's a woman and she's the only real female character in the movie, other than a detective.
And
later
because
on.
You remember everyone you see at a train station.
Well, if they're Michelle Williams. That's the logic. Oh, it's a girl.
In a movie.
I'm gonna always remember her. 6 months later, I'll remember.
Female on public transport.
But then he gets in sex club, meets Michelle Williams, and they're supposed to have a head over heels attraction into the point in which he wants to have a genuine relationship with her and break the rules of the club. Oh, wouldn't you know it? She gets kidnapped, possibly murdered. He's knocked on the head. No one believes him. He needs to find Hugh Jackman. But hey, Hugh Jackman doesn't exist. That's not a real name. No one can track him down. And it's just Ewan McGregor against society in the world. And you're thinking, oh, he's going to be framed for murdering this girl. But no, Hugh Jackman just comes back into the world and is like, hey, I'm actually real. And I'm a criminal.
Sitting on his bed.
And I'm a criminal who appears like it's a dream, right? Like, he does that thing where he turns around and you hear that noise, and there's Hugh Jackman sitting there, like how films do when things aren't real, or when it's Spider-Man and James Franco disappears behind a truck, and stuff like that. But then the plot is, hello, I'm Hugh Jackman, and I'm an evil criminal man who wants you, the auditor, to audit this place so badly and steal money from them and put them in an account so that I can use it because I'm a criminal. And then Ewan McGregor's like, whoa, what do I get out of this? Well, I'll save the girl. And then he has Michelle Williams kidnapped. And you're like, whoa, where did this Taken plot come from?
Also, my dialogue now has swear words, which I will say awkwardly.
Not even awkwardly, dryly. Very dryly swears.
Who are you? I'm your only shot at seeing her alive again. I asked you a fucking question.
Yes.
Take a seat.
Then it becomes a detective movie where Ewan McGregor's like, I won't do what he says, but I will find out who he is and strike him at his core by knowing his identity. And it becomes like a little detective story out of nowhere. Meanwhile, there are actual detectives in the movie that do nothing, other than remind you they are there. And then, out of nowhere, it becomes, well, I've one-upped you, Ewan. Now you must do the scheme. And he's like, oh, all right, I'll do the scheme. And then he does the scheme. He blows up, dies, allegedly. And then the movie goes on for another fucking half an hour, 40 minutes, where it abruptly it should end. We knew as an audience, Ewan McGregor wouldn't die because he saw something and he used that later. But the journey to reveal that Ewan McGregor is not dead, actually, like he did not get murdered, and he one-ups Hugh Jackman, takes so long that it becomes Hugh Jackman who becomes the main character of the third act.
Yeah, like when the explosion happens that supposedly killed him, like Ryan, you instantly said like, oh, the guy who was scheduled to go to his room was the one that died.
Yeah. And then we spend another 20-25 minutes for that to be revealed, and then another 10 minutes of just, oh, Michelle Williams, I love you. I love you too, Ewan, but we can't. And then the movie ends.
It's a very well-crafted script. I like the fact that the character I play, Jonathan, he's not your average kind of leading man.
Let's just review S and Hugh Jack. S is Michelle Williams' character. S and Hugh's scheme part by part. First, both of them have to infiltrate this high-end sex club for, extremely powerful business women and men.
Yes.
Right?
I didn't even think about that part. Yes.
Second, Hugh has to infiltrate this high-rise office building without getting noticed.
Somehow.
Third, he has to make friends with Ewan McGregor, and he has to just rapidly take Ewan into his confidence and build a friendship with this dweebish guy who has nothing in common with.
Which could be a whole movie on its own.
Fourth, he has to switch his cell phones with Ewan McGregor in a way that seems like an accident.
Yes.
Fifth, he has to
disappear.
Sixth, he has to cross his fingers and hope that this dweebish accountant he's just met decides to
answer the phone.
Plunge full force into their sex club.
Did you mention having to also fall in love with the
that
woman
comes,
on the train?
That comes into a part of it.
Seventh, he gets S, his accomplice, to call up Ewan.
Yes.
Eighth, he has to hope that Ewan falls in love with S, despite the fact that he's sleeping with a lot of beautiful women.
And at some point earlier, S was supplanted into Ewan's world, like at the train station, because that's a little part of oh, she's already been introduced to you.
And somehow that has to make him fall in love with this woman, despite the fact that he's slept with a lot of beautiful women at this point, and he's fallen in love with none of them.
But that strong first impression, though.
Okay.
Yes.
Just because we all remember everyone that we see at a train station.
Especially like 2-3 months ago. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
if they walk past you with their mouth really open, that's pretty memorable.
While looking as if they're trying to remove something from their teeth with their tongue, yes.
Yes. That was a different woman,
Yep.
but yes.
Oh, was
Yes.
it?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a woman in an office place. Like, it was inferred, like, that office place woman, him and her had sex. And it was like, but Michelle Williams was just normal on a train.
My mistake, white women.
Okay, I think we're at step 9 now. Step 9, sort of break in, sneak into whatever hotel he's having sex with knock him unconscious and
Yes.
and just sort of make away with S without sort of
Alerting anyone.
Yep, or appearing on
What-
any security footage.
Plan 9 involves a 5-step
Step
plan
10.
in its own right, because you had to do this ludicrous thing where it's like, 1, get Ewan McGregor to come to the hotel,
Right.
seduce Ewan McGregor in the hotel, convince Ewan McGregor to willingly on his own go out of the hotel to collect some ice, and then 5, in the step plan, collectively attack Michelle Williams and kidnap her, making sure Ewan McGregor doesn't come back in between that
Yep.
moment where she disappears, and then on it goes, and like make sure that the hotel reception guy doesn't notice anything, and on it goes. It's
Yeah,
like,
make
step
sure-
9 has 16 plans within it.
Oh, yeah, and you missed the step of the hotel guy never noticing.
That's what I mean, like,
yeah.
they have to make
Was
sure
he
that...
in on it?
No. We never found out, so the
Okay.
answer's no.
All the people that didn't notice them were not in on it.
And
they
so-
just... They had to be, they had to
And
be
so we get to step 10 or
Deceived.
so 16. Pretends to hold S captive, and then extort Ewan McGregor to steal a bunch of money for
Money?
him, while hoping that in doing step 10 to 16, he's never appeared on any security cameras, never
Yeah.
left behind any trail, and that he can't just go back to the women that they play doubles with or
and there was-
anything else. And
There was
Yeah.
also a step earlier where, because they mentioned that the
That's
photo
the plan.
the photo of her being taken in his apartment was taken like way ahead of time,
Yeah,
so they
weeks.
sneak in at some
Oh,
point.
that's right.
Yeah.
And then
It's an
also...
11 to 17 step.
And then 11thly, 10thly,
12thly.
19th,
I think.
12thly, 14thly. No, and this is the thing. In all of these psycho plans, at some point, in between Michelle Williams getting kidnapped and her being revealed that she's been kidnapped, go silent for days upon weeks on end and hope that
Just
Ewan
to fuck
McGregor
with this
doesn't
man.
find any evidence to support the fact that this event took place. Just pray to Jesus. And then, at some point, reveal that you did it.
In Spain. In Spain.
No. Like, oh yeah, that's later. But reveal in his apartment that you're sitting there and you did this to him, because that's the scene where Hugh Jackman appears and he's like, "You're to do what I fucking
Hugh,
say."
Hugh, yes,
Hugh.
yep.
I'm talking about Hugh's plan. Ewan doesn't have any fucking plans until the very last scene in the movie.
You have to get him
And,
too
like,
deep.
There's all of these weird things, and then also in all of this, Michelle Williams has to be in on this.
Yep.
That's the big thing. Michelle Williams has to be aware of the plan, in on the plan, and is down with the plan. And she is. Until the movie decides, oh, that's right, she's a woman and Ewan McGregor likes her, so she must be inherently innocent, because that's how women work. Unless they're evil vixens, they have to be pure and innocent. Like, that's the logic of this world and some scripts sometimes. And that's near the end of the movie. Michelle Williams finds out that he added another plan, which is murder Ewan McGregor. And she's like, oh, but she was already abhorrently upset because it was like, oh yeah, he fell in love with you. And she was like, what? Love? And she's reacting like she's never felt love before. Like she's like some kind of robot. And it felt like a scene from The Room. And it had big Lisa energy, that whole scene as well. And I just was like, okay, this movie is like the most hackneyed script thing ever, but it's so pretentiously executed that we were just sitting there going like, what's the point? What are we here for? Like, who is this character? Is he real? Is he not real?
Plan, not including all the parts included in
Yeah.
part 10.
13thly. And it's just like, why are we here? And it's just because we have to see this elaborate plan unfold and see the journey of Jonathan, as they say, blossom into a Hugh Jackman type, because at the end he decides he's going to one-up him, slick his hair back, and be cocky and assured of himself. And it's like, oh, you see, the quiet introvert became the loud extrovert at the end, and he's like, I'm in charge and you need my signature. And it's like, okay, not a bad idea of getting this little accountant guy to become like a fuck you, I'm better than you, Mr. Criminal Man arc, that's fine. But the problem is, at no point for me did I ever like Ewan McGregor in this movie. His character, I could never connect to him. Bartek, could you?
I mean, connect is a strong word. I thought he was okay-ish at the very beginning, but then became, not much to work with, so I can't say I connected with him.
I'm pretty certain that the whole purpose was to retroactively justify the sex adventures.
Yes, for the writer, yeah. This is one of these films where you watch these prestigious actors kind of sleepwalk and cash a check, because honestly, I don't think they put a lot of effort in, really. None of them, especially Michelle Williams. I usually think of her as a high caliber actress, but in this, it was really embarrassing. She was really bad in this. I don't know. She kind of stood out as like, she's not in the movie enough to show me the good parts. She's got really bad parts for the small amount she's in. Like, she just is,
You killed him?
It was an accident.
Wait, you fucking killed him? You fucking piece of shit. You fucking lousy.
But yeah, when the reveal is done that, like, oh, yeah, he fell in love with you and he's dead, all of a sudden she's, like, taking this, like, oh, what, really?
Moral standpoint.
And we realize, like, oh, so she wasn't in on the whole thing.
Yeah, it's that thing of...
I think it's appropriate for her to be subdued in that scene because she's already feeling a bit guilty about what she's done to Ewan McGregor.
Why? We don't know who she is. We don't know why she would feel guilty.
I'm not saying it makes sense.
But you're justifying it when the film doesn't have any reason to justify.
I'm justifying her acting choices, not the screenplay.
But unfortunately, they become one and the same.
I think her performance makes sense. It's just not the character.
Well, I guess I disagree on a certain level because the screenplay wants you to identify her as a good person because her and Ewan get together at the end, and he's a good person, and so inherently she must be a good person for him to want her because that's how this movie thinks it works. I think it's a problem of why does she feel any guilt?
I'm not justifying anything in the screenplay. I'm just trying to say I think her acting choices made as much sense as they could have.
You for real?
I think the very fact that we had that moment earlier where we were like listing a 17 potentially step plan shows this idea of like the filmmaker didn't think that the average viewer would like come up with this like timeline of events, like order of events. So it's.
But here's the thing:
it's a lot to.
Yet they do because they keep shoving in flashback moments to remind you how cleverly they set this up from the very beginning. So, in a way, I do agree with you, Bartek, but at the same time, I don't, because the film itself is showing you bits of the movie going,
am I misremembering?
We did the homework here. Do you remember that? And it's like, wait, well, if you did the
on.
homework, let me think about it. Oh, wait, no, you didn't. Fuck you.
Yeah, the film wants you to repeat the steps that the film words, but then we do our own words and we come up with all of these like, oh, so they have to take this and this and this into account.
I just remembered a whole step of the plan I left out. Did they strangle a woman with a tennis
Oh,
racket?
Right.
They strangled a woman with a tennis racket just to let him know this could happen to her if you don't follow through our plans. So that's how they ensure that he follows through on the hacking plan.
Step whatever. Find a random woman whose name starts with S in order to point out the similarities
who he's
between
had
her
sex with.
Who's already had sex
Michelle's, with. Like, find another... Yes, and somehow strangle them with a tennis racket.
Even better. Hire a woman from this sex club whose name happens to start with S to be the woman who phones Ewan up in the first place to ensue that he gets into the sex club because she's the first person he has sex with. That blonde lady that gets choked in this movie. But here's the thing. She wasn't in on the crime. So how come she did the thing that you said, Bartek, where she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. If she was not in, this woman that did get strangled later, she was never in on this plan. She was a genuine person of the sex club. How come then she did what you stated, which was she on purposely did not hear the name?
No doubt in my mind, just narrative convenience.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like this film,
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I agree with you. The film doesn't want you to think about it this way. But the problem is the film is like, tap, tap. Did you see the homework we did here for this elaborate plan?
Yes,
yeah,
we saw too much.
We put the work in. And
we
you're
saw
like,
the convenience.
Fuck, no, you didn't. You didn't put any work in. And that's the thing. Like, There were so many random little funny moments, like snap zooms that felt like it was The Office out of nowhere, and during scenes that weren't at all intense. Like, Hugh Jackman just like, you're gonna do what I tell you to do, and Ewan's like, I don't want to, and it will snap zoom. Like, that's not an intense scene.
But
that's not an intense mode. Like it would be more intense if it was like
execute the
Hugh
plan.
Jackman was like,
We'll execute
you do what I fucking say, and it zooms in when he says fuck or whatever, or say. But instead it zooms in when Ewan McGregor is like, you know, I don't want to, but I guess I have to, and then does intense snap zoom. You're like, that's not why you use that for, dude. That's not the right moment. Not saying, and also it's weird because they never used those. It was too late in the movie to implement one of those snap zooms. Like, at least with Quentin Tarantino, he uses those quick zooms, and they're often used for intensity or for comedy. Like Django Unchained has quite a lot of those. That's a stylistic choice because of what he was doing in terms of the period piece of the spaghetti western. But like, they're intensely there, and they're there throughout the movie enough to let you know this is a style that's going to be implemented. But halfway through this movie, you get a random comedy Office snap zoom. The Office.
Yeah, during
like,
the reveal of like, I'm real and this is what I'm doing.
And you just laugh. We laughed so hard we had to rewind it.
Yeah.
And then they did it again later on Michelle Williams terribly acting. I'm sorry, I thought her acting really was bad in the final scene with in the scene with Hugh Jackman. There was a bit where she was screaming some lines, and then she abruptly stopped, and it felt like, did she just stop saying her lines? And Hugh Jackman kind of stood there a little bit like, waiting. And I was like, I don't know if this is the character or the actor, and if I'm questioning that, it's not good.
You fucking piece of shit. You fucking lousy.
While we're talking about stylistic elements, I'm kind of fascinated by the music because while this was made in 2008, it has a very 90s soundtrack, a lot of pulse pounding techno music.
Yes.
Yep, that played havoc with my anxiety, and it really, it's sort of, I don't think it fit at all.
No.
Well,
I'm not saying it can't have anxiety-filled music, but the specific techno choice did not feel right. I thought it should have had a more classic choice.
And it's very disappointing because, you know, the guy who did the soundtrack for this, I'm not sure how you pronounce.
Was it like an Indian name, right?
He's an Iranian-German score composer. Hang on, I've got his name up here.
Oh, I'm not going to have any luck.
Well, my last name's weird. I'll do it. Ramin Djawadi.
Yeah, he's done a lot of really good soundtrack work, and he actually won a few Emmys for Game of Thrones, I think. So
far out.
So it's sort of so it really disappointed me to see that he'd done this. Maybe he needed to pay rent and couldn't and couldn't afford to give all his time to it. But or maybe it's just, you know, differences in aesthetic taste. But you know, I was kind of disappointed.
Well, we did
with
have
the
a
soundtrack
French filmmaker in charge of this one, so maybe it was the director wanted to have a more again. Why is it set in America? Euro sensibility, because it did have a very European soundtrack to it, like a very Frenchy, Germany type of techno-y sound to it, which again, why is it set in America when the music feels very Euro? No one knows.
Because Europe is fancy and these people are
20th
rich.
Century Fox is like, no, it's set in New York, you fuck. Hugh Jackman doesn't want to leave New York. Like, I can imagine.
That's where Broadway is.
That's literally where Broadway is. He's not. In fact, we secretly filmed the scenes on Broadway and just redid the sets to make it look like an office.
We used all the scenes that didn't have singing.
My friends to this day will refuse to pay for a ticket to come and see me in a musical. They say, Jackman, I'm not paying $75 to hear you sing. You know. So I love it.
There comes a point where something very confusing happens. Ewan McGregor is not dead in the movie. He lives, and he makes it so that Hugh Jackman has to co-sign money to get the money, like co-sign at the bank to get the money exchanged into suitcases. And then Ewan McGregor reveals himself like, it's me, and I'm now Wyatt Russell, or whatever it was, and I'm going to sign it, and blah, and you're going to give me half. And you're like, okay. And then, you know, Ewan, he won't just let you take half. Like, he'll let you take it in the building, but he's going to kill you. And Ewan's like, ha ha ha, it'll be fine. And you, the audience, are supposed to think, oh, well, Ewan's already got a plan for that. Well, guess what? He didn't, because there comes a point where they go like, hey, can we have a private chat in a secluded place by ourselves? Which was weird because it was a very open park.
Yeah.
Don't know why. And the broad daylight.
I will give you half my share if you tell me where S is.
And
can we talk somewhere private?
Yeah,
sure.
And Hugh Jackman's like, I've got a gun and I'm going to kill you and take your money. And I was like...
almost literally what they said.
And Ewan McGregor is shocked. And I was like, oh, Michelle Williams is going to shoot him because she left. And then bam, she shoots him. And then she doesn't want the money. And she's all like, I'm sorry. I don't know who she was saying that to, because it's like, are you sorry for killing Hugh Jackman, or are you sorry to Ewan McGregor for betraying or doing the thing? We will never know or care. More importantly, care.
I care.
And Ewan McGregor does an odd choice. Very odd choice. He opens up the passport of Hugh Jackman's character, which is now using his identity, Ewan McGregor's identity. He puts it in his pocket. Hugh Jackman's dying, but he's still alive. And Ewan McGregor decides to give him both suitcases filled with money and just leave.
I think it's implied he later goes back to it, who's just trying to go after S.
But it was very specific. It wasn't like quickly rushed, Lachlan. Like if he was rushing after S and he was like, and just left the bags quickly and Hugh Jackman grabbed them or whatever, fine. But it was very purposeful and very slow and meaningful. Like it was very much like this is a very like characterful choice. Like it was like, for me, it was like the screenwriter saying his character's above the money and above the crime.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's in it for love.
Pretty much the moment where like he picks up the passport, from that point on, there isn't really any clear-cut character development, so it almost seems like they're just trying to throw darts in, like, every single direction. Like, oh, he will give up his identity, and, oh, yeah, it also wasn't about the money, and he's gonna go after the girl. Then it cuts to the last scene, and...
It's in some other place and time now, because they're wearing different clothes, and they're a bunch of Italians.
And they pass by in the street, and we don't know what happens next. And it's like, okay, well, what do we get from that ending?
And again, you ask yourself, wait, so the police know that he committed this crime and he's fled over to this country, and they'll know that that's not his body. How is he going to financially support himself being an international fugitive? Oh, he won't. Oh, don't think about it. They're in love. Bye.
The whole movie kind of seduces you. It doesn't rush you. It's not formulaic in that normal thriller way. It kind of just draws you in. And through the character of Jonathan, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to his plight and to what he's going through, and will be taken into a world that they would never get to see. And believe it or not, this world exists.
So the film focuses on some men and women. What do men and women want?
Well, men and women.
Yeah, men. But what do men and women want, Ryan?
Well, that's the conversation of the ages, Bartek. You see, I mean, how about you tell me, and I'll let you know as a man if that's an answer, and you can then ask my wife in the other room as a woman if that's the answer too.
You know, at first I thought it was about love and happiness and all that, but I think something a bit more economical.
Oh, we haven't even fucking talked about that. Shit. Rewind the whole podcast. Charlotte Rampling's in this movie, who's a well-respected actress. She was in Foxcatcher, to list something more recent, or Assassin's Creed, which is, you know, its own thing, but...
I think she acquitted herself pretty well here.
Yeah, she's a dignified actress. She comes in as, like, one of the sex clients, and it's like, they have sex. It's implied, we don't see it, because they're cowards. Oh, we'll show all the young actresses who are nice and firm and young and sexy, but we won't show the sex scene between him and an older lady because they're fucking cowards. And instead we'll just have her sitting in her lingerie afterwards, and it will just be this very demeaning conversation. Like, Ewan McGregor's supposed to be our hero, good guy. He's this very demeaning kind of like, why the hell are you doing this kind of attitude? Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you an old woman doing this? And she has to answer it in a dignified manner, but the way that she answers it was like, I'm in it for the same reason you men are. And I said out loud, for the fun of it, or like for the pleasure, or for sex. And then she answers with, economically, and you're like...
It's like, yeah, something like...
I'm sorry, where are we going with this? And it was hilarious.
It's like economical satisfaction or stability, and it's like
it's
intimacy without something.
And it's like, a writer wrote this.
Yeah.
No one speaks like that. No one just had sex with another person, then was like, why the hell are you doing this? You're old. And then they're like, same reason you men are. And what's that? economically satisfactory, blah, 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 buzzwords that you use in an office. Because they do establish later that woman was like the Wolf of Wall Street of women or whatever. So I guess, technically speaking, it's in tune with her character as a financier woman, but fuck you.
Why do you do this?
For the same reason that men do it. The economics of the arrangement. It's intimacy without intricacy.
I was expecting you to critique certain other dialogue choices, such as, I remember you got quite a bit of pleasure out of, that wasn't lying, that was foreplay, and now you're fucked.
Oh, that's right.
The worst line in the movie. How could I forget? Yeah, Hugh Jackman fucks that line.
There was also
up so
one
bad.
that was like, execute the plan or I execute her or something.
and right after that, it's sort of like, and right after that, I think you would have liked this, Ryan, but you left room. Right after execute the plan or I execute her, Ewan says, but if I execute the plan, you'll execute me. Why are you so upset? You were dead before I met you.
Yeah, that's right.
This film was really well written,
It
guys.
was writer as fuck.
And why should I trust you? Everything you told me was a lie.
Oh, not lies, Jonathan. That was foreplay. And now you're fucked.
Now let's talk about the very important philosophical tome that we discovered in the special features.
We've already alluded to it, but we haven't said the name.
My wife decided to, let's look at the special features. I said, so happy God if there's a director's commentary. There is. But then we saw there was something ludicrous before the most ludicrous thing. There was like
there was director's commentary.
The deception, the making of,
like uncovering the deception. It was like a making of.
But that was annoying. But then we saw
the third option was simply,
you say it,
club sex.
No, club sexy.
Oh, club sexy. Yes,
that's even worse.
Club
that's
sexy.
The thing. Like club sex, there's a simplicity and a straightforward honesty to it. Club sexy, that sounds like something that's advertised beyond the watershed.
It was a really great moment, I'll just say, because Ryan was still reacting to seeing like, oh, of course there's a fucking director's commentary.
Then I was reacting to the second thing.
Club sexy
and then
is a
your
banner
wife,
ad.
She just scrolled down to club sexy, clicked it, and like the moment before it like cut away, we saw what she selected. I'm like, oh, what's this?
And here's the thing. Although we had a small window of opportunity, what the fuck were we expecting from it? I don't know. As soon as I saw club sexy, no joke, we were talking about Austin Powers at one point for some reason, and I honestly thought we were gonna get an Austin Powers sexy club musical dance number like you do in those movies. You know how they have the intercut scenes where they're like dancing and it's like 60s and whatever.
What, you mean the transition things?
The transition things. Right? I thought we were going to get, or like, you know how Austin Powers have those music videos like American Woman and you have Heather Graham. I thought we were going to get like a weird song and dance sexy musical number from key elements of the movie being spliced in, and it was something weird like that.
Oh, like a music video.
I don't know why, but what we got was insane. We could do a whole episode on Club Sexy, if I'm honest. We could call this the mystery box, the deception the deception and Club Sexy.
I've said this,
Club Sexy is fucking nuts.
I've said this before, but it sounds so much like a banner ad.
It is insane. So Club Sexy is a weird behind-the-scenes special feature, even though there is already a behind-the-scenes special feature.
Yeah, it's like an ideological
with two separate sex experts.
One of the actresses who played the detective, a random interview of Ewan McGregor from another time, and onwards and upwards it goes.
And a sex therapist.
And no, we said the two sex therapists.
Oh, right,
There was one old one and one young one.
Yep.
And it delves into the so-called ideological and philosophical musings of this film. Oh, and the producer and the director speak too.
And the writer.
And the writer. That's where we met the writer.
A lot of retroactive justification.
A lot of retroactive justifications. And there was a small character we didn't mention who was played by the actress Maggie Q, who becomes a pivotal character according to this featurette of Club Sexy.
Was she having to meet this guy even at her detriment, even though it was something that was going to be harmful for her? In other words, did this behavior, this attraction for this guy, did it cause her more harm than good, and did it control her rather than her control it?
Club Sexy is a weird thing because usually with a behind-the-scenes special, you're expecting like, oh, they're going to talk about this. But rarely do you ever get a behind-the-scenes special where they're breaking down the thematic stuff. Rarely do you ever get a behind-the-scenes special of that, like where they're just in there going like, yeah, the themes of this or the ideological things of this. So actually, I kind of respect Club Sexy for trying to attempt that. But the problem is, none of the things that they say are in the film, or even a nod towards some of these theological ideas of sex and intimacy and obsession and all this kind of stuff. And then we just get weird mixture of, Bartek, it's not just philosophical musings, it's other stuff, isn't it? We get like a history about how this film got made from the writer talking about it. And
is it just me, or like, I might have been projecting, so I might be a bit cruel to this writer, but did he project a sort of sleaziness to you?
Like other writers who tend to kind of explore their darkest sides within the very safe confines of their office, I was really fantasizing about what would sort of the ideal version of this feel like? What's the most seductive possibility? And to me, it's people who are exactly like yourself, just young urban professionals who are simply just too busy to have anything resembling a relationship and have these needs and want to see them met.
Just before we were talking about, what was the older actress name? The older lady that we didn't see the sex in?
Charlotte Rampling.
They talked a lot about her in this.
Who appears in like 2 scenes.
And the big idea they had with her was that she was going to be a standout element of this film, where the idea is power is the sexiest thing ever, and she has a lot of power.
And because, as we all know, Charlotte Rampling is just pure sex. She's so sexy. And I was like, I'm not as familiar with Charlotte Rampling as an actress.
Sexuality is largely in the eyes of the beholder, really.
But you know what they say? When they say a certain actress or certain actor
I don't think any of us can definitively state if someone is not or is not
Yes,
sexy.
yes. But the point that I'm leading to is what Ryan was saying about how the scene played out. Ewan McGregor was treating her weird.
He was treating her, like, judgingly. And then, okay, that's fine.
Okay, I see what you mean.
But then also, here's my thing. Charlotte Rampling, I'm not familiar with her work previously. I'm familiar with her as an older actress, and I would say she's more someone who plays domineering older women, and not in a sexual sense, but more in just a narrative sense of like a domineering mother or a head of a business or something. I'm not familiar with her as an actress, but when you say she's like pure sex, she's a sexy actress, whatever, you get a certain idea of what that means from previous actresses or actors. Like, for instance, George Clooney, he has sex in his genes. Like, when you watch him, he's someone who exudes sex. Or Tim Curry, for instance, in terms of actors. But when you say actresses, you think of certain actresses that are like, oh yeah, they're a babe. Not just they're a babe or they're sexually attractive, but they exude some kind of sexuality in their performances.
And it reflects the roles that they're given.
That's a pretty subjective thing, honestly.
But there are certain actresses where that's like, or certain actors or actresses where that's like an objective strength of theirs, where you go, Tim Curry, he objectively, as an actor, exudes pure sexuality in his performances.
Well, yes.
So you're saying that's not a subjective thing, that's an objective thing. But with actresses, that's also something in there. Like Jane Fonda's early work, she was very much into sexual liberation and sexually exuding energy as a performer. She's still into that now. And even in her 80s, she'll do something like Book Club, in which that movie's not very good, but she's there being like out and out proud about how sexual of a being she is. That's what I'm thinking. But Charlotte Rampling, that's not something that I'm familiar with. So I'm very curious to see if this is just another fictitious, blown up thing that these producers and these people are talking about, or if this is something that I'm not familiar with, and maybe I could look into this. Hey, has she done things that are like, where she exudes a sexuality in her performances? Because I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with her being more of a, English actress who's very stern and proper.
For me, Charlotte Rampling's always been this icon of sexuality and sophistication, and it just was really just inspired casting.
They're giving like this philosophical backstory about this character who is not really a character in the film. They appear in 2 scenes. And then they give one to Maggie Q, who appears in 1 scene. And again. And then they eventually get around to Jonathan. They don't even discuss Michelle Williams. They don't even discuss Hugh Jackman. They eventually get around to our main character, but they have this weird to-do list of these other characters that aren't in it. I was expecting them to do a whole 5-minute section on that one office guy who gave a weird facial reaction in 1 scene that I made fun of.
We had a lot of fun with that.
And I was saying, like, it's just this absurd thing of, like, okay. And then there's just, like, these 2 sex therapists are talking about sex and sex therapy stuff and sexual politics and sexual ideas that are all very interesting. but they don't apply to this film, or they're not even acknowledged. And that's why we make a joke that this is a great philosophical tome, because they're introducing a lot of these interesting or semi-interesting philosophical or standpoint ideas of sex and sexuality and monogamy and swinging and all this kind of stuff. But we just watched a movie where none of this is touched. This isn't Eyes Wide Shut. This is just a film in which, for a 10-section minute of the movie, he goes to he has a sex club escapade, and then they drop that. It just goes away.
Oftentimes, sex is much more than sex. It can be about relationships. It can be about desire. It could be about pleasure. There's so many things that come into play when we think about sex or talk about sex, and I think that was true in the film as well.
It's all these weird feels, and then we're going to talk about Schoolboy Ewan.
Yeah. Ewan's part
I
of this.
had a laugh and a half of that. I lost it. I nearly died. I think I felt my spirit leave my body.
Can I just say, you pissed yourself laughing, and then it cut away from Ewan McGregor. You paused it, and you were calling your wife, like, Rachel, get over here. And she was busy doing something in another room, so she, like, begrudgingly came over, like, what? And then when
to give extra credit, my wife's a high school teacher. Go on.
So she came over, it's like, what is it, Ryan? You showed her Ewan McGregor in the film, and she lost it.
And she's like, he does look like a student at my school even. I was just laughing, and I was like, Ewan McGregor, in an interview, has his hair combed, he's wearing like a blazer and a tie and a white shirt, and he looks like a schoolboy.
And he's got like this like blue background, like, oh, this is the background for the school photo or something.
And he looks exactly like a schoolboy from the 1920s, to be precise. But also he looks like a human version of Brahms from the movie The Boy, like the doll in that. And I can't get over it. I can't get over the fact that Ewan McGregor is such a chameleon, because we talked about extensively in Downward Love how fucking sexy he was in that movie. Like, just charming, but visually he was pleasing on the eyes. But then you think of him in Star Wars, where, you know, they have him looking like Alec Guinness and stuff. But then you think of him Train Spotting, and he looks like a heroin addict, because he's supposed to be. And he's like a real shapeshifter of a guy. Like, he always has those distinctive things about him, like the facial moles, depending what time period you're watching it in. But in this interview, I was like, what movie was he doing where he was like, I need to play a little schoolboy? I don't know, and I never will. I never will.
I'll tell you what movie. Club Sexy.
Lachlan mentioned before, this movie came out in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away to discover that at the end of the credits.
90s.
I literally thought that this movie took place in between the prequel movies. So I thought it was like 2000, like a post 9/11. So I thought it was like 2004, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking mid-2000s as well.
And then I was shocked that it was 2008. This came out the same year as Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So that's Deception. Came out in 2008. I don't think any of us are saying a yes to recommending it. I don't even think it's worth it for like a chuckle or two. I think Club Sexy is worth it, but the actual feature film of Deception, no.
And Club Sexy doesn't really, it's not as chuckle-worthy unless you have a context of the movie.
I don't agree. I think it's pretty chuckle-worthy even without the context, because these women are discussing this thing and then they're showing the images of the movie. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. And when you see Schoolboy Ewan McGregor on its own, it's amazing.
There are some standalone appeals to it, but I think the 100-minute context
isn't worth it.
Really emphasizes the appeal for that, but is that worth it? 100 minutes to watch the film.
Listen to our 100-minute episode of this episode.
Again, I had fun doing this, watching it and discussing it, but it's not a good film, and I don't recommend people picking it up in hopes of having fun themselves.
No, it's not worth the time. And like I said, it adds to the pile that is my frustrations with the two lead actors' choices as performers and as artists. It just adds to this pile of, I just want to see these two actors in particular do more movies that I can actually say are great. For me personally, like, you know, you guys can say that about Ewan and Hugh, but for me, I just like, this adds to the ever-growing list of things in their IMDb list that I will go, not for me. It's a bummer, but that's Deception for you.
Yep.
We were lying. We actually do recommend it. We deceived.
It just occurred to me that the real Deception were the supposed friends he made along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Because they weren't really his friends.
It's true.
There was a bit where Hugh Jackman was mentioning about friends. Like, because we're friends. So that's Deception. That's our episode. Lachlan, a pleasure to have you join us to
Thank
discuss.
you. I was glad to be here.
This
and I
emotional
should
thriller.
reiterate that I do usually like the composer in most of the works he's done.
This was one that, like, although I didn't like it, I didn't hate it in ways that I have previous. So this can add to 2 in a row of movies I could stand. But,
Yeah, even at the end when you did shout, it, like...
It's because I was just tired. I was
Yeah, I
like,
know,
why is it still going?
It didn't feel like, the film, like, insulted you or anything.
It was just like, why are you here going still? But it's like next month, hopefully we get something juicy. I don't know, but that'll be for next month. So, listening people, you can find us on the social medias of Facebook and Twitter, Spit and Polish Presents. We have our Gmail, Spit and Polished. If you dare to email us, maybe you were in Deception. Do you have a Club Sexy 2.0 tome that was lost in the sands of time?
If
Maybe.
not, deceive us by emailing us.
Yeah, emailing us, rate and review us on whatever podcatcher allows it, and usually, it seems like we've kind of abandoned trying to leave the room for the time being. Like last few episodes, we've like had reasons for not doing it, and honestly, it's weird because this movie just made me content enough for me to be like, we can just end the episode, But
I mean, to be fair, the whole thing started by me just trying
making
to
it a joke.
Just me trying to get you to say what was your favorite character in this thing you didn't like.
My favorite character in this film was Sex Therapist in Club Sexy, and my least favorite part was when Club Sexy ended and didn't continue as an ongoing saga. That's a Star Wars saga right there. Star Wars, a sexy club story, a Club Sexy story. I would fucking love a Club Sexy universe. Well, until next time, people, remember, without love, you can never, ever, ever eat or get happiness.
That is true. That is true. 5 years ago, at the funeral of my grandfather, I read out, hymns and verses and all that, and I did it to be respectful.
But you should. I thought you were going to lead with, but I should have read the transcript of Club Sexy.
No, I was just being randomly intimate.